those big ships, like you said, it's just, how could the thing even? And I worked at shipyards building towboats, and they weren't near that big. But I think the longest I worked on feet, our house was 75 feet off the deck. But believe it or not, in the Mississippi River, and this towboat was built for south of Cairo, Illinois, New Orleans. It had three propellers. They were at least 8 feet in diameter. This was a towboat pushing barges up and down the Mississippi. Now, that was pretty big, but pales in comparison to like that one that I'm talking about, SS Midway out in San Diego, standing at flight deck looking clear at the other. I don't think I could run that far without getting out of breath. But that's amazing. And like he's talking about anchors, great and big as those anchors are, and what they do with that boat pales in comparison. Christ, that's right. And when you think every individual person is saved, that, and then you got Heavenly Father, who this whole solar system, universe, and now they've sent out all those Hubble, and now the other one, I forget the James Hall or telescope. They just keep seeing more stuff they had no idea. In my mind, that's what they're even seeing is still just this little, because this is still the universe. What God created. I don't think they're actually looking at heaven. It's still just the universe. So vast. Yet God. Anyway, let's go to Mark chapter 5. Mark chapter 5. And I guess if I would title this lesson, it would be, who then can be saved? Who then can be saved? This story, this factual story, I guess I should get to the right chapter. It is not a fairy tale. It is true. You all know it, nothing new. Start with verse 1. And they came over unto the other side of the sea, into the country of the Gadarenes or Gadarenes. I'm not real sure how you pronounce that. And when he was come out of the ship, immediately let him out of the tomb a man with an unclean spirit, also known, we would say, demon, who had his dwelling among the tombs. He lived in the cemetery. And no man could bind him, no, not with chains, because that he had been often bound with fetters and chains, and the chains had been plucked asunder by him, and the fetters broke in pieces, neither could any man tame him. Now, the way I understand it, the chains and fetters, in our day, you got handcuffs, they click around, okay? I've seen some of the old stuff too, where it's basically the same, a chain between what would go on your wrist. And sometimes these fetters, though, they were wide, but they always had one thing in common: the fetters, they were made out of some kind. They weren't wood. You had the stocks and everything. That could be. But when it talks about fetters and stuff, it means definitely chains. It's not rope, which rope can be very tough, hard, very strong. But this was chains and fetters. Chains, it says, were just plucked asunder. This was just a man, but he was possessed by demons. No, it was more than one. The story tells us. But the chains plucked. Now, we think about something being tore and ripped. We're talking about steel, and I've worked with steel almost my whole life. And it's not an easy thing to do. It takes a lot of heat or a lot of force to destroy steel. It's not simple. This guy plucked. What do you think of when you say pluck? You think of something real hard to do? You pluck grapes off the grapevine. You pluck apples off the tree. You pluck feathers off the chicken. None of that's hard. He plucked. I'm supposing, because of that word being used, it was no effort. But not only that, the fetters, the parts that clamp around his wrist, or if they had him tied behind, I don't know, did he break in pieces? Now, this man had strength because of the demon. He was just a man. He had demonic strength. No man could bind him, tame him. Would we look at him and say he's a hopeless case? Physically speaking, humanly speaking, we look at him and say he is. We're lost. No matter what our life is, we are a hopeless. I don't get it wrong. I know there's folks. All know folks. A lot of people in our own congregation, they'll say they why. Some of us didn't have that part. We grew up in church. I mean, I've went to church my whole life. I've never can remember not going to church. But I was just as lost as anybody that never darkened the door. I was just as sinful. I'm just as much a sinner as anybody else. That, is just the experiences people go through. This man possessed not just one demon, but saying legion. I think legion means 1,000. But that's supposition. But I'm going to take it we know there was men. Well, we have evidence too. There was a herd of 2,000 swine that possessed by these drove them mad. But no man could tame him. Actually, it says neither could any. The word man is in italics, meaning it was added to try to give a little extra meaning, but he could not be tamed. It said always, night and day, he was in the mountains and in the tomb, crying, cutting himself. Always, night and day, the mountains and in he was ranging constantly. Did he ever sleep? I don't know. Maybe some here and there, I suppose. Did he ever eat? I guess he had to eat. He was ranging. He had no peace. He had no peace. And then on top of that, he was crying. And I think here crying, I don't think it was meaning bawling and crying. I don't think it could be, but I don't think so. I think howling. And cut. He didn't just cut himself because he was wandering around. He was cutting himself on purpose. That's the way I interpret it. He was cutting himself on purpose. So I'm sure the people around there looked at him and thought, "Let's call it." And no one, they had tried. They had tried. And I think they had tried many times. I don't think they tried just once. It didn't work. I think they tried many. and they could not tame him. And night and day, night and day. But Jesus and the disciples had come over the sea to the country there where he was at. And it said there in verse 2 that immediately this man. What's interesting too was it says immediately met him. Yeah. I mean, he was there. But in verse 6 it says, but when he saw Jesus afar off. So he wasn't there at the beach and then saw Jesus. That he was afar off, saw Jesus. God revealed to him what? You know, that's what God has to do. Every lost, God has to reveal him. I mean, like I said, I've been in church ever since I can remember. I knew all the stories about Jesus, about, knew all that stuff. I knew all about everything. I don't mean I believed everything. I knew the story. Now, I will say this. Some of the stories that I was told, I don't think they were told quite right, because they were told out of storybook. I remember some of those too, because some people, they get the idea that a little kid can't grasp that stuff. So they water it down. I'm not saying we do that here, but I meant, you got to be careful about that. Because there were some ideas I had about that were not right. And it's because sometimes the storybooks you're given, Bible storybooks you're given, there's details that are left out. Okay? But anyway, this man, when he saw Jesus afar off, he knew this was someone to deal with. Not deal with in a way, I'm going to take care of you, buddy. No, he knew this was someone that he had to meet. He knew this was God. I really do. Because he came and said he met him. He said but when he saw Jesus afar off, he ran. He didn't just stumble along, hope he got there in time. As he saw him afar off, and he ran and worshipped him. Now, you got to remember, he was possessed. Demons also knew who that was. It was. So I think the man did too. I think God revealed himself. Christ revealed himself. The demons also knew. There was a different reaction. The man knew that Christ could make him. Because God revealed that. Believe that. He saw Jesus. He knew there was. When we're lost and God touches us, I mean, before I was saved, I tried everything. I mean, I was young, but I tried everything. Nothing worked. Nothing worked. And I know I've heard others talk about that too. Nothing worked. No matter how old you are, how long you live, nothing works but Christ. For this man, according to the people around him, I'm sure they thought it's just too late. But the Bible teaches us it's never too late. If you die without Christ, what's that word? I can't think of. Purgatory, to go pay for it, and then maybe you can get out. Like that. You die lost, you die lost. But the good thing is, you got saved. You're saved. Your body dies, but you're immediately with the Lord. How all that works out exactly, I don't know. There's no point in even trying to figure it out. Just believe that it's so, and how God works, that's up to him. But it's the truth. But when he saw Jesus afar off, he ran and worshiped him. Worshiped. And then verse 7. And cried with a loud voice, saying, What have I to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of the Most High God? I adjure thee by God that thou torment me not. For he said unto him, Come out of the man and be thou unclean spirit. Now, see, I think here there's a little couple of different things going on. I think that man truly is worshiping the Lord as Christ. The demons, I think they worship God. They can't help it. But they're not believers. They're not saved. They're not changed. But they can't help but worship God because he is God. Christ was God in the flesh. They could not worship him. But they didn't like him. They didn't want anything from him. Salvation was. What they did want was for him not to destroy them. Did I adjure thee by God? Think about it. Are they cursing? I think so. Because they're in vain. To me, now, this is just my opinion. In vain they are using God's name. Me. I adjure thee by God, torment me not. Do the demons deserve to be tormented? Sure they do. Do sinners deserve to be tormented? Yeah. No, sir. If we're not saved by the Lord, we deserve torment. If the unbelief is there, you deserve torment. But they said, torment me not. But they didn't ask for salvation. They didn't ask to be changed. Lord, who knew? They did not believe in the way of faith and salvation. Torment me not. And the reason I say that this was it's kind of a mix here. As he ran afar, he worshipped him, cried with a loud voice, said, What have I to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of the Most High God? I adjure thee by God that thou torment me not, or because. He said unto him, Come out of the man, unclean spirit. Christ was dealing with two different people, if you want to put it that way. He was dealing with the man, human being, who was lost. He was dealing with the demons who were possessing. He had told them, Come out. You can't stay here no more. Here. You get out. They are the ones. I don't think it was. I think it says he was worshiping. Again, that's just what I think. But he was worshiping. And if you're worshiping the Lord, truly worshiping the Lord, it shouldn't be tormented. Now, you can worship the Lord and be thinking about how you failed him and be sorrowful, sure. But that leads to righteousness, peace, when we truly worship the Lord. Even when we failed as a saved person, repent of that failure, ask God to help. We don't ask the Lord to leave. They were saying, Leave me alone. As Christ already said, you come out. He's not your home anymore. Then he asked him, What is thy name? And he answered, saying, My name is Legion, for we are many. Which Legion, technically, 1,000. You talk about the legions, military of the Romans, 1,000, whatever. If there's 1,000 demons, I just know there were a lot. I suspect there were 1,000 or more. And he besought him much that he would not send them away out of the country. Leave the country. Christ could have sent them. Because now there was nigh unto the mountains a great herd of swine feeding, and all the devils besought him, saying, Send us into this twine, that we may enter into them. And again, as we notice in all this, the demons have not asked for any. They haven't asked. They didn't ask to change them. They didn't. Just leave us alone. Don't send us. Let us go over here. Don't send us out of this area. We want to stay here. Now, Christ did into the swine. And this is nothing. You guys all know the story. Forthwith gave them leave. And I said, some people get the idea that Jesus was, because he was crucified. He was really Christ. Why did he let that happen? Why did he let it happen? These people. It was the sacrifice. But anyway, but Jesus gave them leave. Jesus had power. He was. Sometimes people give the idea when they talk about Christ that, well, yeah, in a sense he became a man, and he suffered many things, but it's only because he let people. He only went on that cross. He only got nailed to the cross because he let it happen. He was willing to do so for us. But he gave them leave. And the unclean spirits went out and entered into the swine. And the herd ran violently down the steep place into the sea, and they were about 2,000 and were choked in the sea. I don't know that that's what the demons expected. I don't know what they were expecting. But what it was, the evil and badness of what they were, caused those 2,000 swine to go completely crazy and into the sea and drown. Verse 14 said, they that fed the swine fled and told it in the city and in the country. And they went out to see what was done. See what it was that was done. And they came to Jesus and see him that was possessed with the devil and had the legion, sitting and clothed and in his right mind. And they were overjoyed. No, it's not what it says, does it? They were not overjoyed. You would think they had tried to bind this man. They had tried to stop him. Now he's saying, not only saying, sitting there, Jesus teaching. Oh, what they were, it's kind of like, and yet their reaction, it's kind of like, I've heard this said before about people that are not saved. And they've known people that got saved, and they've said, well, glad they're saved, but they got too much. They're too saved, if you want to. I don't know. You know what I mean. And these people, you would have thought, would have been overjoyed. This man, not possessed by devils, could live among them now and be peaceful. They were really afraid. They had just begun because they saw 2,000. Maybe they were looking at the money. I don't know. 2,000 swine gone, not to come back. I don't know. But they weren't happy. I think it would have been. When they come to Jesus and see him with the possessed of the devil and had Jesus sitting and clothed in his right mind, they were afraid. They were afraid. And they saw it and told them how it befell to him that was best with the devil and also concerning the swine. And they began to pray him to depart out of their country. Depart out. Miracle had been done. Peace had been given, not to just this man. But you think about it. They tried to bind him, so evidently he had been a problem. Now there's peace. It wasn't what they wanted. So they asked Christ to leave. They begged him to leave. Just pray him depart. Verse 18, and when he was come into the ship, he that had been possessed of the devil prayed him that he begged the Lord that he might be with him. Let me go with you. Howbeit, Jesus suffered him not, saith unto him, go home to thy friends, tell them how great things the Lord hath done for thee, and hath had compassion on thee. You know, I have a work. This time can't be work for you. You go into your homes, your friends, the community, and tell them what God has done for you, which is what we're supposed to do when we're saved. We're supposed to tell people what the Lord has done for us. The work we do. There's different ways and times and different things, but that's the basic thing. We, saved person, are to tell others what Christ has done for us. That the Lord had compassion on thee. And what did the man do? He departed and began to publish in Decapolis how great things Jesus had done for him, and all men did exactly what he told him. So who then can be saved? Look at this man, you would think, which that I really only got my first point. A few others here to talk about this. There's that who this thing can be saved. That applies. Look at it. That's what we'd hope to do, but we'll start maybe next week on it. But who then can be saved? Anyone that believes. Anyone that Christ touches. Christ is not limited. Uncle Jerry, would you dismiss us, please?